Okay, so to kind of debrief so that we're ready for the midterm, we're going to kind of like fast forward with 125. And it's just dealing with the heart. So just some key things. So during an autopsy, medical examiners look at tissues, groups of cells that make up organs, as you just did with the histology samples of the brain. They also look at whole organs such as the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, and many others. They weigh the organs and examine their external and internal structures for signs of damage or disease. Evidence both from organs and from tissues help medical examiners better understand what may or may not have played a role in an individual's death. So after we examine the brain, we're now going to the medical examiner performed a gross exam of other major organs, including her lungs, liver, and kidneys, and determined that they appear normal. The final step in your training with the medical examiner is to investigate whether Anna suffered from any illnesses or diseases of the heart, or if any damage to her heart occurred before her death. So at the center of the cardiovascular system is the amazing pump, the human heart, a muscular organ located near the middle of the chest. The heart is responsible for controlling the flow of blood around the body, ensuring that essential nutrients are delivered and wastes are transported for disposal, and for picking up oxygen from the lungs and delivering it to the rest of the body. The interior of the heart contains four sections called chambers: two atria, which are upper chambers, and two ventricles, which are the lower chambers. The atria and ventricles are separated by valves. So valves in the heart control the body flow between the chambers and to major blood vessels. You have the tricuspid valve, which separates the right atrium from the right ventricle. You have the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve that separates the left atrium from the left ventricle. You have the pulmonary valve, which permits blood to flow into the pulmonary artery from the right ventricle. And you have the aortic valve, which permits blood to flow into the aorta from the left ventricle. The heart connects to a series of tubes or vessels which serve as the highways for the transportation of blood. Arteries are responsible for carrying blood away from the heart, and veins are responsible for returning blood back to the heart. Altogether, the heart and the blood vessels comprise the cardiovascular system. So when we're viewing the heart, you're looking at the angles from either anterior or posterior. Anterior is the front view of the body, and posterior is the back view. You also have to orient yourself into the way the body is. So what your right is not going to be the right of that of the body, because you have to orient your body in the direction of the body that you're viewing. So in this diagram, you can't see the pulmonary valve because it's on the other side of the heart. But you have the aorta, you have the left atrium, mitral valve, left ventricle, right ventricle, tricuspid valve, right atrium, and aortic valve. And you'll do something with that a little bit later. So to complete the full exam of the heart, you need not only a solid understanding of the structure of the heart, but also you need to know how blood flows into, around, and out of the heart through pulmonary and systemic circulation. So pulmonary circulation moves blood to the lungs to pick up oxygen and back to the heart so it can deliver that oxygenated blood. The systemic circulation pumps oxygen-rich blood to the body and returns the deoxygenated blood back to the heart so it can be sent out to the lungs again for refueling. So it's like a circulation process. So that's why, the heart and the lungs work so closely together. So cardiopulmonary circulation is the flow of deoxygenated blood through the heart and lungs. During this process, blood becomes oxygenated and is pumped out to supply the body. After oxygen and nutrients are used by the body, blood is returned to the heart via two large veins called the superior and inferior vena cava. The vena cava drain deoxygenated blood into the right atrium of the heart. From the right atrium, blood travels through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. The deoxygenated blood then travels through the pulmonary valve and into the lungs. Within the lung, blood travels through branches of the pulmonary arteries until it reaches capillaries around the alveoli, which are air sacs, where gas exchange takes place in the capillary bed. Blood receives oxygen and flows throughout the pulmonary veins back into the heart. So once reaching the heart, oxygenated blood flows through the pulmonary veins into the left atrium. From the left atrium, blood travels through the mitral valve and into the left ventricle. The oxygenated blood travels through the aortic valve and out to the rest of the body. So it's literally like a circulatory process, which is important because you have to know how the heart and the lungs work together. So deoxygenated blood, which is blood that does not have oxygen in it, goes through the heart and goes to the lungs so that it can pick up that oxygen. Then it is taken from the lungs back through the heart and back to the rest of the body. One thing you have to create is a heart box. So it literally looks like this. You're going to have one huge box, and then within that box, you're going to draw a line down and then a line across. So you have like 4 mini boxes in it. And it's going to look similar to this. So you're going to have the right atrium and the right ventricle, the left atrium and the left ventricle. And I know it looks different because you're like, well, my right hand is over here, but remember, you're looking at the view of if you were looking at a body. To go from when blood leaves the body, so remember, the blood that leaves the body doesn't have oxygen in it. It needs oxygen. It goes through the vena cava to the right atrium. That valve that is going to open from the right atrium to the right ventricle is called the tricuspid valve. The blood is going to move through that valve into the right ventricle, and then the blood is going to move out of the right ventricle through the pulmonary artery to the lungs. In the lungs, they're going to pick up that oxygen. So now the blood is going to be oxygenated. So that oxygenated blood is going to go through the pulmonary veins into the left atrium, and it's going to open up by the valve to go from the left atrium to the left ventricle with the mitral valve, or it can be called a bicuspid valve. So the blood is going to continue to go through there. It's going to leave out of the left ventricle through the aortic valve, and it's going to go through the aorta, which is the largest thing that it can go through, and it's going to go back to the body. So the deoxygenated blood is going to leave out the body, go through the right atrium and right ventricle, through the pulmonary arteries to the lungs. The lungs is going to supply it with oxygen. Then that blood is going to move out of the lungs through the pulmonary veins to the left atrium and then the left ventricle through the aortic valve to the aorta, and it's going to go back to the body. So it looks like almost like a twisted pretzel because it's just like a constant circulation process happening. And that is what you're going to turn in. You're going to turn in that heart box picture. We're not going to focus too much on all of the other stuff. But you can watch this video about the heart dissection and kind of see like what that looks like. So the whole purpose was to see like if this plays a role with Anna or anything of that nature. You can also familiarize yourself with some of these things as well, like the coronary artery, left ventricle, things of that nature, to kind of know, what it is. You do have certain diseases that are based off the heart, like angina and some other ones. Can cause chest pain, allow, things of that nature, pressure. Um, so there are different little ones that you can look at that are, available for you. So as far as Anna, if you want to update her case report, so you can record your observation notes of what diseases or disorders may be based off of her heart. And then that's all of 125. 126 is just putting all of it together, trying to figure out how she died. So you're going to tell me, what do you think the cause of death was? What injury or disease may have killed her? What was the mechanism of death? What was the manner of death? Should law enforcement proceed? Or, was it something that was kind of natural? You're going to review your completed autopsy report. You're going to double check each entry and verify your interpretations of the data and the conclusions you drew, and correct any errors. And then that's all you're doing for that. And that is it.